Let's go, let's go, let's go. We've got another fantastic episode of Illuva Talks. Let's do it. Welcome to Illuva Talks, where we're leading the conversation about the future of gaming, where you're going to learn at least 2 new technology insights guaranteed in every single episode. In this episode, let's talk about it. We are going to talk about the metaverse, obviously, but is augmented reality ready? Are there graphics quality issues happening right now? Yes. Is token earning dead? We're going to talk about that. And I just want to remind everyone, nothing we talk about on the show is financial advice. But if you're watching, you're obviously a genius. And you know you're responsible for doing your own research and seeking independent advice, of course. And you don't want to just hear me talking about all of this. You want to listen to the smartest people on the internet. And I've got the stackedest panel ever of super geniuses, starting with Vic, who's a crypto and finance TikTok influencer. I want to congratulate you, man. Let's bring you in here. Congratulations on hitting 250,000 followers on TikTok. You are grinding hard over there and your content's great. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate that. It's been a steady grind for the last year, but we hit 250,000. I'm actually giving away a PS5 because of it. So that happens tomorrow.
Man, look at you. All influencer giveaways and everything. Congratulations, man. I'm super happy for you. I've coached a lot of people that have tried to achieve the success you have on TikTok. Good for you. Great content with high retention wins, and your content gets straight to the point. I love it. We've got other super geniuses coming on the show, including Shiny. You guys may have seen the YouTube channel out there, the brand Go Shiny Hunter, who's an NFT gaming YouTuber, providing kind of news updates, hot NFT projects. I was chugging some top 5 NFT games you can play now. Here he is. Shiny's on the show. What's up, buddy?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, of course. And a great channel. Highly recommend subscribing to both of these guys and their content and following. And we've also got the co-founder of a major project in augmented reality on the show today. Hopefully his internet holds up. He's traveling in Miami for business and what have you. It's the first augmented reality open metaverse. It's called Over, and it's the geo-localized experience where basically they're bringing together, like you guys know, augmented reality, physical and digital worlds into one. They've got a mobile app I was checking out. Really cool project. Diego in the house. Is Miami internet holding up, bro?
Yes, let's try that. I'm here, super excited to be at the show, and yeah, let's try to do that. I hope the connection holds.
I hope it holds too. He's the COO and co-founder of Over, and we really appreciate all of you guys making the time. We've got so much to cover. I know augmented reality is top of mind given our panel today. So the question I want to ask all of you, I'm just going to tee this up for the audience, and then we're going to kick it over to Diego. Is AR ready? So, what do I mean by that? Can AR go mainstream if users are forced to look at it through, let's say, tiny rectangles? So there's upcoming technologies such as Apple Glass, where there's speculation about this coming out maybe in 2023, potentially $500, integrating into their VR AR offering. Also, Mark Zuckerberg's augmented reality play in tandem with Ray-Ban, cool-looking glasses, promises to maybe be useful in the future. We have yet to see it. And there's also, of course, the failed project of Google Glass in the past. And there's other augmented reality players that are going the glass route. But today, we have phones to experience augmented reality. And that is what Over has been focusing on. And so the question I want to kick over to you, Diego, is can AR go mainstream if users are forced to view it through a small rectangle?
Well, yeah, I believe that not for all the use cases, of course. And in fact, if you think about AR, I mean, probably the biggest success up to date was Pokemon Go. And Pokemon Go was a game. It is a game, basically. And we didn't see any app that really did a huge success out there after that. Even Niantic that built that app was not able to replicate that success with the latest trials. So I would say that this is for 2 main reasons. So one, of course, is what you mentioned. So the means that we use to experience AR. So mobile phones They are great because everybody has a smartphone in his pocket right now. They are not, of course, so great because the experience of AR is kind of limited in some way. On the other side, this is not the only barrier, and I guess that this is there is another barrier that is totally underestimated. That is geolocalization accuracy. So when you have a game like Pokemon Go that was successful, you actually use GPS to locate in space. And GPS is quite good for a game like Pokemon Go where you don't need to be precise. You don't care where these assets are. You just want to collect those to gain something. But if you really want to
When you say
create...
you don't need to worry about being precise, you mean it can relatively understand maybe within 10, 20, 30 feet of where you're at. It doesn't really matter if you're exactly where Pokemon Go
Exactly.
thinks you are. You're just trying to catch a Bulbasaur. Is that what you mean by location
Ex-
accuracy?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, exactly. So you don't really care to edit the physical world, to really augment it in a specific way. I mean, you just care about having this asset that you interact with and you want to collect it. But if they are, I don't know, other side of the wall or others outside of the building on the other side of the street, you don't really care. But if you want like to create this vision of this augmented reality metaverse, you need to have this precision. Let's imagine you want to put an avatar in front of a door, you want to augment a shop window. This augmentation needs to be exactly there to have a meaning. Otherwise, it loses all the meaning that it has. And we are talking about when we were referring to GPS, I even referring to outdoor GPS because indoor GPS does not work at all. I mean, really, the system doesn't know. It has like 30 meters server. So without solving this problem, basically all the applications that we dream about are not possible. And because of that, I mean, the big corporations working in AR are directly trying to solve this problem. Niantic is doing that with their Lightship and so on. Microsoft is doing that with their services. Google is doing that. If you are in New York, you try to use Google Maps. It will not work because there is the tall buildings and the signal of GPS will not be accurate. They will ask you to point to the building, so they would switch to an optical system to locate in space. So,
So what you mean by that is because GPS isn't quite as accurate as it needs to be for augmented reality experiences to be as high quality as we want them to be, we need other sensors to help make those experiences more accurate, such as camera sensors to pull the visual information in your space, or even LiDAR to pull the 3D data in your space in order to make augmented reality actually accurate and to maybe take it to the next level. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, no, exactly. In fact, I mean, the augmented reality at the end of the day, it's about mixing the physical and the virtual world. So if you cannot trick your brain with a convincing experience, you will say, yeah, cool, not so fun anymore. I mean, maybe it's nice to see it for 1 or 2 minutes, but then, I mean, the engagement falls down because, I mean, your brain is very picky when it's about reality. So maybe you can do some occlusive environment that is not so perfect and still get it through it. But if you want to have an augmented reality experience, you want to mix it, you want that this asset merges with reality, our senses, our brain is very picky. So the first thing, I mean, things the system needs to be aware of the environment around you. And I mean, for just a stupid thing, that doesn't have to go behind walls or I don't know, have no occlusion or stuff like that. And so that's the problem. And of course, some might argue that this is just for a geolocalized augmented reality. You can have augmented reality experiences that doesn't care about the location. But when you think about that, all the things that we dream about AR is like a space-aware computing. So the fact that the objects that we use to augment the world are actually coherent in some way with this world. And so that, I think, is the second big barrier. And probably, in my opinion, probably I'm biased because I have a business system to solve this problem, but probably is even the first problem of AR.
Got it. That makes sense. So let me kick this over to, so thank you for sharing all of that. It's really interesting to hear about all the problems or challenges there are with properly implementing AR and how you have to have different sensor systems and back-end systems to solve those problems. So let me kick this over to Shiny. You're an AR junkie. Do you think that AR is going to go, let's say, mainstream with us looking through rectangles and trying to point the small rectangle at the world? Or will things like Apple Glass and HoloLens and these sort of technologies take the experience that teams like Over is building and then take it mainstream? Do we need augmented reality to be just sitting on our heads where we don't have to take these extra actions to see a small piece of it? It's literally our entire field of view. Is that the unlock that is required to make augmented reality as ubiquitous as these rectangles? What are your thoughts on that?
It went mainstream with Pokemon Go, but steadily we saw a decline. We saw new games coming out using augmented reality. So The Walking Dead did a game called Our World. There was Jurassic World Alive. And what you steadily saw in those games was a decline in user base. And some of those games, even Wizards Unite for Harry Potter, that they ended the game completely because it wasn't generating enough profit. It wasn't worthwhile for them to have it. So clearly we've evolved to a point where the standard has changed. It was mainstream, but now we want more. We want a better, closer to reality, augmented reality with our experience, because I think that's gonna, you're right, with having a screen holding up to certain things, it's just not as accessible and it's not as realistic. You want it to trick your brain into thinking this is genuinely right in front of me. So you get a real, just engages that kind of like fantasy experience of whatever you're playing or using.
Well, let me push back on that, because everybody says Pokemon Go mainstreamed augmented reality. But my experience with everybody I know who played Pokemon Go, and one of my best friends is like one of the faces of Pokemon Go. They flew him out to Japan to do all the commercials. I know all the biggest like Pokemon Go YouTubers. My kids, I play Pokemon Go with them every day. And everybody says that's augmented reality that mainstreamed it. Did it? Because most users I've seen, literally every user I've ever seen, just wants to turn the augmented reality off. Because it makes the experience lower quality. It's literally more difficult to see the freaking Pokemon when it's sitting on top of God only knows what's in your background with your camera, as opposed to the, let's say cartoony background like the forest or whatever behind the Pokemon. You're able to see the content more clearly and see it within context. So the reason why I bring that up is, why augmented reality? Why not virtual or mixed? Don't people want to escape? Wouldn't you rather go into a Pokemon fantasy land than have your freaking Pokemon sitting there next to you in the dirty Target parking lot next to you? Come on! I'm going to kick this over to Vic. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, does augmented reality take some of the appeal of the escape away?
In the sense of gaming, I would say that it's nice to have different options for users. So I think that Pokemon Go was really ambitious. And like Diego was saying about GPS, it was really the first time that I ever saw a game allowing me to roam freely in my city and play it that way, rather than sitting stationary at a desktop or even a mobile device. So I think that the AR component in integrating the GPS was really powerful. However, what you're saying about the visual tracking with the Pokemon and integrating with like your living room, I do think it looks kind of rough. I agree with you there. But I see the future of AR really working outside of gaming and in engineering and different industry, where we can, design the model of a car in an empty room just using 3D modeling software rather than clay, for example. That to me is the real future of AR outside of just gaming utility.
So I mean, Zuckerberg has talked about that quite a bit with Facebook Meta and having those 3D collaboration spaces. I have my Oculus Rift or Oculus Pro sitting over there, and I guess I could collaborate with other 3D designers if I knew them and if I was one. So I can see those applications, also training applications, right? Trying to train people on things like safety and what have you. I've seen some good applications for that. That makes sense. Guys, we have a lot more to talk about, but really quick, I want everybody to know this show is available on every podcast platform. So if you want to catch this show, the edited version later, where everybody's ums and ahs and everything's super clean, go listen on literally every platform. Illuvium.buzzsprout.com. You can then go select Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you want to listen to your podcasts on. It's your call. Go enjoy the show there. Be sure to subscribe to hear more interesting things from super geniuses like our panel today. So let's move on to our next topic, which I think is really critically important, which is Metaverse graphics quality. I mean, come on. Everybody has seen, and let's go ahead and pull it up. I know we don't want to have to relitigate. Everybody's seen the Zuck with his Zucky look. He posted on social media, and then he did the upgraded look, right? Everybody laughed, and they're like, he spent $10 billion on this. Lol, 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 said every normal person that doesn't follow this space. So let's say toward the lower end of the graphic spectrum, you've got things like Horizon Worlds. This is somebody I've talked to in a consulting capacity. They're called Vertway events. It's toward the lower end of the spectrum in terms of graphics quality, but it's very practical. You can get 1,000 people in the same space, for example, in this solution, but the graphics quality is low in exchange for the utility of having 1,000 people in the same space. Then somewhere in the middle of the graphics quality spectrum, we'll have maybe projects like TCG World that don't look great. They just look okay, but they sure as heck look better than this. So they're somewhere in the middle. And then towards the top of the graphic spectrum, let's call it, are projects like Everdome, which are shooting you in the frickin' face with lasers and every modern graphics tool and experience that is available, and hoping to entice users into the metaverse through something that's awe-inspiring and is beautiful. But the point of showing these examples is the lower graphics quality stuff, like Vertway events, you can get 1,000 people in there. It's scalable, and you can use it on your phone. The higher quality stuff like Everdome, you probably need like a 30 series or 40 series graphics card, right, to experience this, which is going to limit your user base to less than 1% of humans. So the question that I want to bring up to the panel right now, and we'll kick this over to Shiny first, is will users accept low quality graphics in the metaverse in exchange for scale? Or do they need those beautiful lasers going pew-pew in their eyeballs? What are your thoughts on that?
I think you've got a real kind of like thing to weigh up. Just personally playing VR games at the moment, my biggest problem isn't graphics. I accept it as it is, but I don't think it's accessible enough in terms of the headset's too big, it's too chunky. I end up playing for an hour and my neck is killing me. And I don't want to play more. Oh, well, I want to play more, but I know that I can't, because if I do, I'll just end up with RSI in the neck and won't be able to move my head for the next couple of days. So I think the quality isn't as big an issue, but if you're setting up the future of the metaverse, if you're going into like where we want to go to, which is everybody wants to get to Ready Player One, right? That type of standard where it's ultra realistic, but that what you're talking about, do people need to integrate things like the ability to, you touch something and you perceive it genuinely on your fingers, you get hit by something and you actually feel it. Hopefully you don't feel a pew-pew in your eye, but like you want that ultra realism. So I think it's a trade-off. I would personally trade off scalability and the quality in terms of feeling engaged with it and my hand movements being exactly what's going on, rather than having those ultra realistic graphics. But that's just my opinion on that for sure.
Got it. So you kind of fall into the gameplay first category of thinking, where if it's fun, if it's responsive, that's, let's say, the majority of the value, and it looking like an Everdome or even an Illuvium, right, isn't as important to you as the gameplay. That's fair. Let me ask Diego this question then, the same question. What are your thoughts on graphics quality? You guys are working on augmented reality, so I guess you guys literally get to pull from the graphics of reality and overlay something on top of it. But what are your thoughts? Do we need those beautiful graphics to hook the mainstream user? Are people going to continue to laugh at us like they laughed at Zuckerberg if we don't have those good graphics? What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah. So just a quick comment on the Zuckerberg side. So it's true. The avatar that we saw was totally, disappointing. But the point is that it's strange because we are looking at all the papers that are coming out in the space of face cloning and so on. And actually, Meta lately came out with some very important research in that direction. So I guess that this is what we see now. But in the future, I guess that they will also strive to photorealism, and they will do that because they have the technology to do this. Closing this argument, I will kind of go a little bit against what is our vision also, because we are striving through photorealism because of what I mentioned before. So our eyes are very hard to be tricked. So if you want to do augmented reality that it's convincing, you need to have high quality. But looking, at the success of other games out there, like, I don't know, thinking about Roblox. The graphic quality of Roblox is horrible, but they have millions and millions and millions of users. So I guess that there is space for different flavors, different kind of metaverses. And also if we move, for example, in the decentralized side, so in Web3 space of metaverses, like we talk Decentraland, or we take, for example, Sandbox, they definitely don't try to have a good quality. Yes, the numbers of those metaverses are very, very small compared to the Web2 metaverses, but it's just to simplify the fact that probably there would be space for different kind of graphical modes. And I'm not so sure that we really need to have an ultra-realistic metaverse to have mass adoption. Maybe a more simplistic metaverse will be the first one that will be adopted. And this is something very counterintuitive, but seeing, the engagement that some platforms that doesn't really push on graphics have, to me at least, should be a good lesson to think about what could be the future on that.
Got it. Yeah. So, Roblox is successful because of the functionality of their platform, because of the creativity. But the fidelity of the graphics in Roblox is better than Horizon Worlds. It's better than Vertway events. You could argue it's maybe even better than TCG World because it's stylized. And so if you can properly nail the stylized look, then you can have a successful intellectual property. Same thing with Minecraft. The style carried it. So let me kick this last question on this topic over to Vic. Will mainstream media and normies just continue to laugh at all of this until they see something mind-blowing that they can just put on a pair of glasses and go, whoa, I'm in Avatar right now? Like, is it going to continue to be a laughing stock until that moment? And the reason why I bring that up is that's 15 years out, right? So are we that far from this being a thing? What are your thoughts?
I don't know if we're 15 years out. Let me just ask a question about your question. Are you specifically talking about an AR, VR metaverse, or would we factor something into just like a regular monitor display type of metaverse like Decentraland, for example?
I'm referring to an AR, VR metaverse. I think that's actually what 90% of real people out there that aren't following this closely think metaverse means. So they don't think metaverse is in a rectangle. They think metaverse is on glasses, on a headset. It's a 3D immersive space. Maybe it's holograms in your room. They don't know, but it's something that goes beyond the rectangle.
Absolutely.
I think that's what people, I think the average person thinks about metaverse. They've seen the movie Ready Player One. They're ready for that. That's what I mean by that. So what are your thoughts on, do we need something like that to get the average person in here?
So Zuckerberg gets a lot of slack right now. Like, he's really become a target because of these big investments that he's made into the technology. But if you listen to what he says about the technology and what people want from it, I fully agree with him. And that specifically is a feeling of connection and a feeling that the person is right in front of you if you're trying to connect with them. And that is what will make a metaverse, is that we're connecting with people and it feels like an interaction and it feels like a different real life. More than anything, it just feels like a new life that you're living. And with that, you need relationships, you need other people, and it needs to feel realistic. So when I play Horizon Worlds, the one thing that I really was mind blown about it, even though the graphics look awful, it looks like you're running around with, those Wii characters that you have. Even though all of that, just the fact that you're right in front of someone and their hands are moving and their mouth is moving and their eyes are blinking and their head's moving how they would in real life in those same ways that they're talking, it pulls you out of your actual reality and sucks you into that reality. And if they can lean more in that direction where we're taking human characteristics that are actually happening from the user on the other end and plugging them in the game, I think that's the most important thing above graphics. Obviously, graphics have a role to play on the comfortability of the game. Like if your frame rate, like I saw one of the comments pop up, if your frame rate isn't high enough, it's gonna feel like a game. Or if the dimensions of the display you're using in your headset are not high enough, you're gonna see the pixels. It's gonna give you a bit of motion sickness or a bit of a headache or just eye strain. If we can remove the eye strain part of it and the motion sickness, I think that human characteristics are far more important than actual polygons in your 3D models.
That makes sense. Well, let me bring up this idea then. So when video games, as they've become popular, from early video games of little 2D pongy things, all the way to 2D games like Mario and platformers, leading up into the early 3D games like Mario 64, then let's fast forward to super high fidelity games like the AAAs that are coming out now. The biggest hook for people to get into games along the way, and don't get me wrong, there were Roblox and there were Minecrafts and things along the way that were lower quality, Among Us's, things like that. But 95% of the hook was that those new games and that next generation of games that's coming out that you can buy looks way better than the previous generation, and it looks better than anything you've ever seen before. So I'm sorry to harp on this topic, but when we're talking about people are going to join the metaverse and are going to accept graphics quality levels that are 25 years ago or 20 years ago, that seems counterintuitive. Even if the eye, and I've experienced the eye tracking you're talking about and the hand movements, and it is remarkable. But are people really going to be able to accept 25 years ago graphics, even if that functionality is there? I have a hard time believing that. Look at the TV industry, look at the film industry, look at the gaming industry, look at every entertainment industry. The higher quality next generation technology wins. Animated films is another example. People don't hand draw anything anymore because 3D looks better. People don't want to go back in time to the old version of animated films. See what I mean? So I'm having a hard time thinking of any examples of technology moving forward in entertainment where it looking a lot better isn't the hook that brought almost everybody in. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, guys.
I have one for you. So after the movie Avatar came out, there was a massive shift towards super high budget and just over the top visual effect movies. The problem with these movies is that the stories were all the exact same. And really no one...
A hero's tale. Or
a whatever. Hero's tale. And it was corny. And the movies didn't perform, but they all looked phenomenal. They all had these crazy graphics, but they didn't click. People didn't like them. And it was the graphics and the flashiness that drew people in. But in the end, all those movies are forgotten about. And then over time, what we saw is something like The Batman with the guy from Twilight, I forget his name, Robert Pattinson, where visually, like, there wasn't that much going on. Or another example is Dunkirk, where there was zero visual effects, and that was all shot through the lens of a film camera. And it was heavily influenced by the story, and it did remarkably well. So that is one example of, okay, look at us. We have flashy graphics. We're plugging hundreds of millions of dollars into it, and it flops because the human connection wasn't there. People at the end of the day, they want to connect, and they want to feel like emotion, and that's what we really crave. And they might be pulling people in with new games with these crazy graphics, but how many of these games actually are timeless? How many of these games actually last? The ones that actually last have a strong community base. Community and connection and human interaction is the driver for success in all entertainment, in my opinion.
I like that opinion. Let me push back then on you. So, and I want to know if Shiny and Diego have an opinion on this matter, and then we'll move on to our next topic. So, I understand that Avatar came out, and that Avatar had a series of 3D IMAX films that came after it that were not successful. However, the trend didn't stop there of high budget films completely dominating the film industry. Look at the Avengers series and all the Marvel movies and Star Wars movies. and just look at basically all of the top grossing films in basically every category, they are the highest budget films with the highest graphical fidelity. So yes, I understand Avatar 3D IMAX, the umpteenth level didn't quite make it, but still the biggest budgets with the biggest graphics still took the vast majority of the pie in the film industry. So I think the concept still stands, even though that one version of high fidelity graphics didn't take off. Look at the box office numbers, they don't lie. There were some examples of some lower budget films that broke through, but still 80% of the big movies that made all the money were the ones that spent the most dollars to create them. Anyway, Shiny, Diego, do you have any opinions on this topic? Otherwise, we'll move on to our next one.
Yeah, I think it's the combination of, because what you're getting up with the emotional movies are going to be the ones that you remember, the ones that you can connect with, the ones with a good quality storyline. But do you favor an emotional connection with the film and higher quality graphics over something that's less? I think a combination of those both are the best. Like you say, top 10 results are grossing just looking through them just now. And yeah, it's Avatar, Avengers, Star Wars, Titanic's in there, but I think that was pretty expensive.
None of those are indie films, but they had good, to your point though, obviously they had great stories. Yeah. And a story is the best format to connect with a human, right? Yeah. That's why we literally tell everything in the form of a story. Video games, marketing, branding, everything's in the form of a story because that's how our brains work. Good point. Okay, Diego, any final thoughts on this? Otherwise, we got to move on to the next one, buddy.
Yeah, we can move on. We can move on to the next one. It's fine.
We'll move on. Diego has given us permission. Next topic. Here, this one's fun. So, is token earning dead? So, I don't want to rehash everything with Axie Infinity and all the Gen 1 NFT games, but the reason why I wanted to bring this up is as we move forward into the metaverse and especially augmented reality projects or projects that bring people out into the real world, we've got the step and earn. I just watched a video. They were talking about burn and earn. You're working out and earning. Obviously, you can go out and go catch monsters in various AR games out there, and you're earning. Man, sounds like we're earning lots of tokens in all of these games. But as we've learned from Gen 1 crypto games, games that provide tokens as a reward, the tokens don't necessarily retain value over time, just like printing money in the central banks and every civilization in the history of humanity, right? So I wanted to kick this over to Vic first. Is token earning in games dead, or is there a place for it longer term? What are your thoughts on that?
I think where a lot of these projects went wrong is they are leading with the foot forward that you can earn tokens and NFTs in our game and then exchange them for stuff outside of our game, which to me is kind of besides the point of earning an in-game token. Like if we can bring it back all the way to, for instance, World of Warcraft, when you earned in-game gold, you went and spent it in-game. Now, the difference is that obviously that's not on a blockchain. That's just they stored it under your profile in the game. And we're trying to get on blockchain technology. So we think that everything should be interoperable with the rest of the world. But right when you really make that exchange happen, then you have exchange rates. And then your token can either go up in value or lower in value. And it gets really complicated. So
just hit pause really quick. I just wanted to go back to the WoW Gold example.
Yeah.
You're right. You can only use WoW Gold in the game. I just Googled WoW Gold. But the top 7 advertisements are people trying to take the WoW Gold outside of the game and sell it to you for fiat.
Yeah,
and so this proved demand.
Gold.
This proved demand for people earning, let's call it tokens in video games, if you will. It's not on the blockchain, but people wanting to sell it for fiat. So what does that does that prove? Is that like a use case that proves people want this?
Well, the thing where I was going with it is that all that matters is how determined your users are to play your game. Users are the most important thing. So if your user puts value on it, like which you've seen right there with WoW Gold, there's people actually running Google ads. So they're actually investing their money to get your attention, to sell you the gold that they've went and earned and farmed or traded for or what have you, right?
This one says it's got 10 years of experience and live
I believe
support.
it.
Like these are legit. I guess I'm calling legit, but these are businesses that have been around for a while.
Yeah, that whole premise has been around for a while. WoW is probably 15 years old at least.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's all about the user base. If the user base falls off, then the whole ecosystem, the whole game is going to fall off, just like a video game without any blockchain interoperability or any blockchain utility is a better word for it. So users are everything. That's my opinion on it.
Got it. Let me kick this over to Diego. So you guys are trying to get people out into the real world, use augmented reality experiences. So as you co-founded Over and you were talking through what rewards do we want to provide users, is throwing tokens at them the right move? How would you guys think of tackling that topic? And what's your opinion on the token earning reward as something needed to bring users in and to retain users in the metaverse?
Yeah, so the first use case that we built actually in Over was a Pokemon Go style treasure hunt. So we send people around the world to collect our tokens, and lately we created this system as a software as a service, so other companies can actually use it. And we did it with many NFT projects that wanted to gamify their asset. So it's definitely working. I mean, people love to do an activity and to gain something out of that. The point on that is, where is the the barrier between people that just do it for earning and people that also do it because they enjoy that. So the problem, especially in the crypto world, is that if you push too much on this kind of model, probably you will onboard a lot of people that just are there for getting a quick buck and then leave the platform and then don't care about that. So I think that is a valuable way to make some noise and engage people, but cannot be your main value proposition. And of course, that's the problem that you mentioned at the beginning. So these models very often are not sustainable because, it's not a circular economy. So people farm those tokens, sell into the market, the price of the tokens would go to zero. Having said that, there is people that with this unsustainable model, they were able to create so much buzz around them that basically they reach a status out there. So let's talk, for example, about Stefan. The model of Stepan is not necessarily sustainable, but the noise they were able to generate out of that basically position themselves so high that they're probably not going to disappear for many years. I don't want to give any judgment on that, but I just want to say that we should not underestimate also the possibility that this kind of unsustainable business models sometimes they have to propel projects and so on to a level that they will not achieve with a sustainable business model. But yeah, I think that projects that think in the long term, they could use this system, but they should use it with a grain of salt because it's very easy to go on the wrong side of this business model.
Got it. Yeah, I've got Stepan here, and I'm just wondering, obviously there's a million fitness apps out there, and I'd love to know, Shiny, what you think about that. There's a million fitness apps out there, and the question is, would people have joined the Stepan experience or even the burn and earn and whatever experiences if there wasn't the token earning hook? Like, was the Stepan experience and is the Stepan experience or similar experiences in Web3 compelling enough on their own? Is the gameplay good enough, if you will? Is the experience good enough to carry it? Or does it have to have that earning component to get people to continue to use this type of, let's call it augmented reality, kind of metaverse adjacent type experience? Shiny?
Yeah, I think if you're getting into any project, any way to play and earn, step and burn and earn, like you say, walk to earn, you're not gonna earn money. You can't have that mindset because if you are playing a game, you need to be able to play it for what it is and enjoy that aspect of it, not play it to earn it, for it to be sustainable for yourself. Because token earning is not going to die. It will never die as long as you create, utility updates to the projects that you create, because it works in all of the games that we have, and I play an Elden Ring at the moment that has runes. The runes aren't going to be that those tokens aren't going to die out. I'm going to keep wanting to try and kill people to get more, and then because it has utility in the game, and I will continue to want it. Would I go and spend $100 to buy millions of runes? It might spoil the gameplay a little bit, but depending on what you're playing, if you might need it for a certain weapon or certain customizations, if you're playing in a game that has a stronger social aspect to it. So I think if you look at how many people probably played Steppen and how many played it because they wanted to get fit versus they wanted to earn, I bet a huge portion of people were attracted to that for its earning potential, because when something's fresh, things go up because it propels itself in. Oh, people see that they've earned something. Okay, well, I'm going to hop on board with that. Loads of people do it at the same time, and then the earning potential goes up. So you get more advertisements saying, well, we've earned $5 a day, up to $50 a day. With Crypto Blades, when that first came out, was earning $100 a day. And,
isn't that kind of Ponzi-y though? Like the money only comes in.
Absolutely Ponzi-ish.
Like if people put money in the top, it filters down the funnel to the user, and then it gets distributed to the users, and then more money has to come into the top. And
Absolutely.
That's basically a Ponzi.
I think the earning potential of any game, it cannot favor everybody, because if you all put in $100 and then in terms of to earn, one of those people who put in $100 has to not earn, has to lose money for you to be able to earn it back when you sell the token, whatever you've exchanged it for. So yeah, in terms of earning potential of earning real money, no, yes, I do think that element is gonna be less of a factor within games, because we've seen it's not sustainable, and that effect means that people have seen that, well, it is a bit Ponzi-ish, and that it has that effect of the people who got in first get the most money. So I do think, but the earning potential within games, people wanting tokens, that's not going to die as long as you provide a game that has huge utility and makes you want to spend and earn cosmetics and things in the game that help enhance your experience.
I learned something new today. I never connected the dots on World of Warcraft Gold showing us what truly matters with a token earning model. And that's if you have tens of millions of users who love an experience and they want the currency within that game, they will want to earn those tokens or currency only because the experience is compelling enough first. So that has kind of changed my mind on the viability of a, let's call it play to earn type of model, maybe working in the future. So now the whole industry, I'm going to kick it over to you, Vic. I'm going to kick it over to you, Vic. I promise. I'm teeing this up for you, bro. You're about to knock it out of the park.
I got something for you.
You got something for me? Perfect. So at Illuvium, we've had lots of internal conversations about how do we talk about earning versus owning. Started out play to earn, then it turned play and earn. Now it's play and own your assets is kind of where we're at with it right now. So I wanted to kick that over to you, Vic. Is owning assets in the metaverse the better option, let's say, versus earning tokens? And I guess when we're talking about owning assets, we're basically saying owning NFTs versus earning tokens. What are your thoughts on these sort of two different diverging paths that are happening in the Web3 gaming industry right now?
So really, we boil it down to the metaverse, right? Illuvium is attempting to build a type of a metaverse environment, a metaverse game. Other projects are doing the same thing. And when we consider at like first principles what a metaverse is, it's just a second reality. Like I mentioned earlier, it's just second reality. So in base reality, in normal reality, what do we do for tokens, and what tokens do we value, right? If you work a job and you get paid in US dollars, that makes sense because you're giving up something that is valuable to you, to someone else, it's valuable to them, and then you're getting something valuable in return. But if you got paid in like the Mexican peso or something, you'd obviously not value the peso as much. The world doesn't, and you swap it over into US dollars. So I think the World of Warcraft example really shows us, because it's not built on a blockchain type game, and it wasn't marketed like, oh, play to earn gold in World of Warcraft, and then you can sell it using Google ads. Like that was never a thing they marketed. It was just a solution that other people created just from trial and error and seeing an opportunity in the market. we just really got to bring it back to, what do people do in real life, and how can we replicate that in a secondary reality? And that's really what the metaverse is. And I think the problem is that we're trying to create all these different elements that we think needs to be there. Like, oh, we'll make our own currency that really no one is going to care about, and we'll make our own this and that, and we'll have all these different components that people don't really value. But you really just got to bring it back to the comparison of real life. Like, metaphorically, would that thing work in real life? If not, it probably is not valuable to the user. And that's how I see it.
That's a good point. Let me bring up this example, and this will be kind of a closing topic here, and I want you guys to share your last thoughts. We saw a play and own assets model with Diablo 3's real-world auction house. So for those of you that are not familiar, when Diablo 3 came out, they had a model where you could basically play the game, get your assets in the game, just like we're talking about here on the blockchain, but this was over 10 years ago. And then you could sell them on a marketplace for money. And users, well, the title here is kind of funny, why Diablo's auction house went straight to hell, but users hated it. They did not want this. And so they had to shut down the real money auction house because users did not want to play and own. They thought that this was predatory and that this was hurting them by owning these assets and being able to extract money from an experience like a video game. So in the case of WoW Gold, we saw that people wanted that and they subverted the system to do the token earning on the side. With Diablo's real money auction house, which had tens of millions of users, users hated it and they said, we don't want to own these things and we don't want to freely be able to exchange them. Get that out of my face. So does that example show us that play to own, we all think it's good, but does the average gamer actually think play to own or play and own is good? That auction house fiasco was the biggest headline in entertainment and one of the biggest blunders of all time in the gaming industry. Floor is open for you guys to comment on that. We can't leave that example off the table. What do you guys think?
Definitely. I think there's a huge portion of mainstream gamers that do not like NFTs, that hate them, that hate the very word of it. And that's because they do feel it takes away from the just pure gaming experience of it. Adding money to it, it can feel like it spoils it. And I think also when you have marketplaces that sell these rare items, these rare weapons, it does become quite annoying in the sense of, well, I earned that weapon for a lot of money, that I earned that weapon for a lot of hours that I put into it. Like earning the Galahorn in Destiny, when I first got that, it was like one of the best things I've ever earned because it was a random drop and I grinded so many raids to get it. And then for somebody to come along and buy that off a marketplace and have it, it kind of taints it. It taints that kind of experience.
It cheapens the achievement.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one thing, one area where I think there'll be lots of different reasons why people don't like NFTs in the mainstream area, but I think that's one of them. I think you are going to have a mixed opinion on this because it is such a it's a tricky subject for people to get around and accept. I think
I agree with that example. That was a really good example. The one thing that I would say is, imagine you put so many hours to get that item in Destiny, you said, right? And imagine you just logged in and all of your items were gone one day, and it's because they had some server malfunction. An NFT solves that because an NFT at its core is just an indestructible receipt. That's all it really is. It's just an indestructible receipt that you own something. So
true ownership is
exactly.
Is the
so if
innovation.
The Destiny servers get completely wiped, they have some server malfunction, they get hacked, there's an error, whatever, what have you, then you lose these items you worked so hard for. Won't the gamers then be like, wow, I wish it was an NFT. I wish it was ingrained in a blockchain distributed throughout multiple servers, multiple computers, so that never would happen?
I wish it was an NFT might be words that won't come out of the mainstream gamer's mouth for a while. But
the first reaction would be, where are my weapons? I want them back now. fix it. It would be
Right.
fix it, and there would be some, you know, call for Bungie to send out every single item that you lost. But how do, if they don't have records of that, how do they know that people are saying, well, I earned a Galahorn, so can you send that back to my account? I think the first bit, it would be such a big blame on the company and developers for having the problem. That it would bypass that first sort of if they said that I wish they were NFTs, but it's true, an absolutely really important point that it gives you that ownership and protection against that happening, which would be painful as hell, wouldn't it, if you've worked really hard for an item and it's just gone.
Yeah, that makes sense.
With the NFT, you don't necessarily have to be able to buy it, right? You don't even need an NFT marketplace as in like, oh, we're going to buy this NFT. You could just use the blockchain and use the NFT system as a means of proving ownership of the in-game item attached to an account or a wallet.
Yeah.
Diego, closing thoughts from you, and where can people discover more about Over that you co-founded?
Yeah, so regarding this specific article, I mean, I don't know specifically what happened, but what I can say in general, of course, the fact that you add this economic value to assets that can actually be there out in the market, so can be valued from the open market, could actually have a great impact on the game mechanics, because basically there could be some items that maybe unlock things that could become super expensive and basically break even the quality of the participants in the game. So I do understand that, I mean, pure gamers can be scared about this. On the other side, of course, as was mentioned before, the fact that you can own an asset that is not locked inside the platform, and maybe you can monetize outside, I don't see really the downside of that. If we just analyze this purely, the problem, of course, is that when this item really changed the game mechanic itself. So I do understand, I mean, that the pure gamer could be scared about NFTs. And of course, now we are in the bear market. So in the bear market, everybody hates NFTs. and that's kind of normal, like with tokens.
Yeah, standard bear market stuff. Yeah, they hate the stuff that went down in price. That makes
that makes sense. That makes sense.
If people are looking to get involved with Over and they just want to dip their toe in and kind of check you guys out, what do they need to do?
Well, I think that the best thing to do is just downloading the app and testing the experience, trying the AR experiences. In the app, you can see what AR experiences have been uploaded around you. There is 17,000 physical locations that are being edited by creators on Over. So maybe you can stumble to some interesting augmented reality experience. And then, of course, if you like the system, if you are a creator, another good thing that you can do, you can try to publish stuff in AI. We have very easy builders, so there is just drag and drop 3D asset or NFTs that you own in the web interface, and they will be published in AR. Or if you can code in Unity, we even have a Unity SDK, so you can even create games inside this platform.
Really cool platform. I've really enjoyed testing it. Thank you for joining us today. And Vic, final thoughts from you, and where could people find you on the interwebs?
Sorry, I was muted. My main channel is TikTok, vic.laranja, Laranja. Got it up on the screen right now. Watch out for fake versions of me. I mean, there's hundreds. You'll encounter them, I'm sure, once you follow me.
If only you had a digital identity that could verify you on the blockchain and prevent this from happening.
I know. If only these social media platforms would take impersonation more seriously. That's another thing. Happy that Elon's focused on that at Twitter, but that's where to find me. I make videos multiple times per week, also on YouTube and Instagram and Twitter. So just reach out and thanks for having me so much, Andrew. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Shiny, I know where to find you. Where can the people find you, and what are your closing thoughts?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube. That's my main area of where I post stuff. So I'm really just posting new games as they come and giving reviews and giving you all the information on them.
Look at that YouTube face right there. That's hot. That's good, man.
That was a real reaction. That was not post. None of that.
Yeah. Ooh, thinky face. I like your thinky face. That's good.
There's a lot of different ones, you know. I reckon. that we see there, some AR games in there. I think they're coming. It's inevitable. We're getting there. And you say 15 years, and so somebody mentioned like they think it's sooner. And if you just look at where technology has advanced, we are living a age where technology is just shooting off. And I don't think it's too far around the corner. I think in this lifetime we're going to get very close to that Ready Player One experience. Fingers crossed.
I said 15 years to make you guys. It's my job to make you debate things with me. Thank you so much for all of your time. I really appreciate it. And everyone that's watching, be sure to follow our guests and support them, and just educate yourself more on what innovative people and smart people are doing in this space. We'll be back once more, exact same time next week for Illuva Talks, where we're leading the conversation about the metaverse industry. And I told you would learn at least a couple things on this episode. You did. You did. So come back next week and learn some more. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode of Illuva Talks. I'll leave you guys with some original Illuvium soundtrack music yet to be released. Adios.